Characters. The characters of Act 4 are the three witches who plot mischiefs against Macbeth using spells and apparitions. They end up convincing Macbeth to send men to kill Macduff and his family. Macbeth, who is a brave soldier and a powerful man, but not virtuous, he cannot maintain his power because he is brutal and is tempted to murder. He is the King of Scotland. Lady Macduff is Macduff's wife. She believes that Macduff is a traitor for leaving her and her son behind while he fled to England to get away from harm. She was murdered by Macbeth's men. Also, Macduff's son and her son. He stood up for Macduff when the murderer came and called his father a traitor. Macduff is a Scottish nobleman, hostile to Macbeth's kingship from the start. He wants vengeance for Macbeth murdering his wife and son and destroying his castle as well. Hecate is the goddess of witchcraft who helps the three witches work their mischief on Macbeth. Ross is a Scottish nobleman as well. He delivers the news to Macduff about the slaughter of his family and the destruction of his castle. Lennox is a Scottish nobleman. First Murderer is one of the group of ruffians conscripted by Macbeth to murder Banquo and Macduff's wife and children, and destroy his castle as well. Malcolm is the son of Duncan. He goes back to Scotland in return to order following Macbeth's reign of terror. He also plots with Macduff to go and seek revenge on Macbeth. The Doctor, who appears briefly and mentions that wretched souls wait for the king, and that King Edward can heal the nasty disease by a touch. Plot summary. Three witches are casting spells when Hecate enters, saying something wicked this way comes. Macbeth enters and demands answers about his future from the Weird Sisters. He believes no one can conquer him, but is told that he will be conquered when Birnam Wood marches to Denison. He is warned to no more questions, but he demands an answer. The apparitions disappear, and Macbeth says he will do anything that goes through his head. He takes out Macduff's family, especially his child, and destroys his castle. Lady Macduff is lamenting to Ross that her husband has run away. She is calling him a traitor. Lady Macduff also makes jokes with her son about his father's death, saying that she can find another husband very quickly. A messenger enters telling her to leave with her children. She doesn't leave, and a murderer comes at the demand of Macbeth and kills her son and her and destroys their castle. Malcolm and Macduff brainstorm about Scotland's plight under the tyrannous Macbeth. Macduff says to fight against Macbeth, but Malcolm thinks Macduff will betray him. Malcolm tests him, but passes. Macduff, Malcolm, and 10,000 Englishmen fight for Scotland. A doctor shows up and talks about how King Edward is tending to a crew of poor souls afflicted by a disease, which the king heals with a slight touch. Ross shows up and chats with Malcolm and Macduff about Scotland in a bad way, discussing the death of Macduff's family and the destruction of his castle. Figurative language. Act 4, Scene 1, lines 7, 10, and 13 are uses of alliteration. In line 7, uses alliteration by using the words sweltered and sleeping. Line 10, toil and trouble. Line 13, boil and bake. This passage discusses how palaces and pyramids slope their heads to their foundations. Through the treasure of nature's Germans tumble altogether. This is personification because this is giving human qualities to something that's not human. Palaces and pyramids are things, they're not humans. In line 88 on page 403, it is a simile because Macbeth is talking about the third apparition rising like the issue of a king. It uses the word like, so it is a simile. In line 90, the third apparition is using a metaphor because it is telling Macbeth to be like a lion and proud and take no care. This is a metaphor because it does not use the word like or as, and it is comparing two unlike things. Descriptive lines describing Macbeth. This quote describes Macbeth because it is actually him talking, and it's discussing how he's going to surprise Macduff's castle and kill everyone in it. This makes him sound evil and sinful. This quote is another one from Macbeth, and it is discussing how he is very demanding and rude, and that if he's not satisfied, that someone else is going to be harmed. This quote is from Macduff, and it's discussing how that there is no one more evil than Macbeth. No devil can be more evil than him. This quote is describing Scotland after Macduff fled, and is nothing but negative things such as sighs and groans and shrieks from the people, and Macbeth is the leader of Scotland, and this is all negative things happening to them. This quote is describing what happened to Macduff's family. Macbeth was the mastermind behind all of this, and this shows that he is a cruel man and will do anything to keep his power. Lady Macduff describing Macduff. The first quote describing Macduff is discussing that he left because he didn't want to be harmed, and that makes him a traitor because he was fearful. The second quote from Lady Macduff is saying that Macduff had no wisdom, that it was fear that he was experiencing, and he just wanted to get away from Macbeth and not be harmed by him, therefore leaving his wife and his child behind to die. This first biblical reference discusses Lady Macduff's extended complaint over her husband's absence, which contains this direct reference. Second biblical reference is because it is a common expression of covenant making in the Old Testament. The last reference is a metaphysical reference because in Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet, Romeo stabs himself with a dagger. Themes. The two main themes in this act are love and devotion and greed and power. Love and devotion is shown through Macduff when he wants to seek revenge on Macbeth for killing his family and destroying his castle. The theme greed and power is shown when Macbeth decides to send murderers to kill Macduff's family and Macduff because he wants to keep his power. Important quotes. This quote is important because the first apparition is telling Macbeth to beware of Macduff. This quote is important because the third apparition is telling Macbeth that he shall not be conquered until Birnam Wood marches to Dunsinane Hill. This quote is important as well because the messenger is warning Macduff that harm is coming his way. This quote is important as well because it is discussing how Macduff wants to seek revenge on Macbeth for killing his wife, his son, and destroying his castle. Marginal questions. Letter A. In lines 79 through 81, the effect is that no harm will be done to Macbeth from anyone that is born out of a womb of a woman. But what he doesn't know is that if Macduff was born the natural way or another way. Letter B. In lines 69 through 75, the characters reflected Lady Macduff's conclusion about this earthly world by recognizing that it is not a perfect world and harm is done in the world, and no matter how hard you try to be good, there is always going to be bad to balance the world. Letter C, in lines 2 through 8, the ironic thing about Macduff's speech is that he is saying to protect his hometown like good men, when in fact he is the reason everyone is fighting, and they are fighting to save the hometown from Macduff. Letter D, the emotions that Macbeth inspires as a tragic hero at this point in the story is that he has the whole country under his hands. He has control over everything and no one is scared anymore. Letter E, in Macduff's speech, he is foreshadowing his death and how he will fight Macbeth, and if he escapes, he will die and the heavens will accept him and forgive him. Text analysis. The first is an armed head, summoned to warn Macbeth that Macduff is coming back to Scotland to ruin him. The second apparition is a bloody child, and it tells Macbeth that no man born of a woman can do him harm. The third apparition is that of a child wearing a crown and holding a tree. In Act 4, Scene 2 of Macbeth, Lady Macduff and her son have a conversation about the fleeing of Macduff. At the end of the scene, the son is stabbed and killed by the murderers. Lady Macduff runs away and is chased by the murderers. He wants to go head-to-head with the King of Scotland, and if he escapes, heaven will forgive him. The result of Macbeth's second visit to the three witches is that he sends murderers to Macduff's family to kill them and destroy his castle. The result of Malcolm's test to Macduff, it shows that Macduff was devoted to his family and that he wants to get back at Macbeth. And the result of Macbeth's family being murdered is that he wants to seek revenge and kill Macbeth. Macbeth insults them when asking for their answers to the questions. He demands them up and then wants answers right then and there. He is very demanding and expects them to give him what he wants. Then, when the apparitions appear, he wants them to speak with him, not to him. The first apparition foreshadows Macbeth's severed head. The second apparition foreshadows Macduff as a bloody baby. And the third apparition foreshadows that Macbeth will lose when the Birnam Woods come to him. The effect that the rhythm and rhyme would have in the audience is fear and wonder if the magical brew would work with all of these ingredients. It gives the audience a sort of eerie feeling, as the witches say it. At the beginning of the play, it shows properties in Lady Macbeth. However, she specifically called on the spirits to repress her femininity, thus taking away these properties to make her ruthless enough to kill Duncan. In the one scene that the Lady Macduff is in, it shows that she is showed as a stereotypical woman of the Jacobean era. She was defined mainly as a mother, was reliant on her husband, and helpless when he is absent. Both characters are strong in their own ways. Lady Macduff deals fine without her husband, but Lady Macbeth is strong with hers. Act 1, Scene 5 shows the relationship that Lady Macbeth and Macbeth had. It is noticeable that the relationship in this scene is much like that of what a couple of their era to be like. Lady Macbeth stays at home while the husband is out at work. Lady Macbeth receives a letter from Macbeth and shows how strong the relationship is. This is mainly because Lady Macbeth immediately understands the full meaning of what was written in the letter, and in a way, her response is strong. Macbeth kills the first Thane of Cawdor for trying to lead a revolution against England. Duncan, the King of England, was murdered by Macbeth. Macbeth's former best friend Banquo was also killed by Macbeth. Lady Macbeth is Macbeth's wife, and although Macbeth doesn't actually murder her himself, he does inadvertently push her to the point of making her so insane that she does commit suicide. Therefore, the total number of lives that were taken, either purposely or inadvertently, was 4. If Macduff is away from the castle, Macbeth will come after him away from the castle and not go after his family. But Macbeth sends murderers to the castle instead. No, I do not agree with the decision to omit that lengthy test. I think they should put that long dialogue in the production. You will lose so much background information as to why Macduff and Malcolm do things. The dialogue is a must to put in the play. You would never know why Malcolm trusts Macduff after he's thought to be an unloyal bastard.